Actually, I would say that China is using export controls, is not rewriting the rules, but it's kind of a sign that the rules are being rewritten. So overall, we see a global trade system that, yeah, in a way is becoming more protectionist. So everyone is fighting for their own interests. Everyone is using their tools that they have at hand to exert leverage, be it tariffs, or be it export controls. And what we see now, I mean, the US is using export controls, China is using export controls, and that's showing we are in a different world of global trade. If you look into the media at the moment, you would say it's super, super vulnerable. There's a high degree of vulnerability. Why is that the case? China has control over a range of very critical materials, special materials like rare earth elements like gallium, germanium, tungsten, and other elements. And those are very important to advanced technologies like magnets, batteries, other areas. So it's really a key to modern technology. And yeah, if you rely on China for, say, like 60 to 90% of the global supply, you're very vulnerable, and there is not much alternative in the short term. So yeah, I think it's a really huge challenge at the moment. Business risk is actually quite high because if you do not get the supply, or if the supply is delayed, you may face delays in production. So you cannot deliver what you want to deliver, and well, that obviously is a problem because you cannot generate the sales you want. So we see this currently for the Chinese export controls on rare earth elements, where well, many companies around the globe actually face difficulties to get those rare earths, but it's also about the magnets. And well, I mean, there have been many statements of companies saying, okay, we really have a problem to get the magnets. We may have to delay production. And I think that is that shows that this is a really quite concerning situation, actually. No, they are not, and that doesn't mean companies do not prepare. Yeah, I think supply chain disruption, of course, it's something companies have always dealt with. Be it environmental disasters, be it the failure of a supplier. We saw it also in the past with Ukraine, for example, that there was quite some disruption after that happened. However, I think the size at what this is happening is now is different. Yeah, because it's not an event, it's not a shock. It's a system. We operate in a new system where geopolitics influences, controls, shapes global supply chains. And I think you cannot approach this in a firefighting modus. You have to approach this with a systematic resilience management. And it's not saying companies are not preparing for that, but I think it's such an enormous task that it's really difficult to prepare. So I think companies are just beginning to prepare for a world of geopolitical supply chains. Yes, of course they can, and I think there's a short-term and a long-term perspective. So in the short term, I think it's mostly about getting what you can get, so what's available in the market, find the right suppliers or distributors and so on. Do your best to get the licenses. Of course, that's might be easier for some multinationals who have direct access to MOFCOM. Might be a bit difficult, more difficult for smaller companies. But I think here it's also in coordination with politics to really deal effectively deal with that, so that you really can find a good solution. I think then in the long term you have to think about what can you do if that happens again. So you have to prepare stockpiles. I mean, that's the most obvious thing, but I think it's also about strategic stockpiles. So not just out of commercial interest, but more also out of geopolitical considerations. Well, you have to diversify your supply chains, which is a bit difficult if China controls most of the world market. But that's definitely something where also beyond companies, we have in governments have to think about supply chain design, supply chain build-up. And that's definitely not something which you do in like a year. Yeah, so that's a thing for the next decades, but that is very important. So in a nutshell, yes, you can do something, but of course it's challenging, and you really need to keep up fighting in a way.